Good evening. I'm Jason Asatis. This is Outside the Box. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. This evening I've got a great privilege to have one of my special favourite guests on, Gerald Celente. Thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight, Gerald.
My pleasure, Jason.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. You're a great inspiration. I know I always say this when you come on, but you really are a great inspiration for so many people. You're like a smelling salts bottle for people, really. It's incredible. And Gerald is published. Thank you. Welcome, Gerald. It's the truth. Gerald's the publisher of the TrendsJournal. Fantastic journal. I absolutely highly recommend that to everybody. That's trendsjournal.com. Gerald's a great visionary who looks down the timeline, looks at the past, the present, the future, and gives us some great inspirations as to what's going to happen. And also, I'd like to say, is one of the few people who actually talks about the importance of self-development in our system at the moment, which is in terrible trouble as a necessity, really. Self-development is a necessity to our survival, I think. So I'll just kick us off, Gerald. Thanks again for coming on. I'll just have a little rant. There's an acceleration globally, obviously, of awareness, a revolution of awareness, in my opinion, of consciousness and conscience, like a spiritual revolution. People want to be free from this system. I believe it's the end of a sort of dimension end, really, I believe. I believe we're at a stage where the system is almost dying because it's been run into the ground. It's not built on ethics and morals. It's built on greed and fear. I do believe there's another system ready to come in, whatever that might be. We can talk about that, which is a necessity. And I do believe we're the midwives, every human being on this planet now, of that new birth of a new system, which wants to take place and replace the old one. And any system will collapse if it's not built on being responsible enough with the power that we've all got. So, I mean, I know you'll talk all night about this. Gerald, tell us what you think about this tremendous awakening now taking place with everyone, with the revolution of consciousness taking place on the planet. It's very exciting, isn't it?
Yes, but it's two-sided. It's exciting and it is threatening, and it could be negative or positive. There's an awakening, but it's happening because of reasons that are beyond a spiritual awakening or an intellectual or a moral awakening. You know, as a Bronx guy born in the Bronx, one of my sayings is, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. Yeah. And that's really what you're seeing. People are losing everything. We're up here in the Northeast, and people throughout the country, the Midwest, we had a very, very cold winter, still having one. People can't afford to heat their homes. It's a choice between heat or food. People are losing everything. Yeah. In the meantime, the wealth is all going to the top. And again, if I spoke like this, or anybody 10 years ago, they'd call you a communist. But now you can pick up CNBC, and they'll be talking about the wealth gap. And it's going on not only in the US, but in Spain, in Portugal, in Ireland, in Greece, in Italy, in Ukraine, in you name the country, Bangladesh to Cambodia, to everywhere. There's never been, what did those numbers come out? 85 people? 85 people have more money than half the population of the world? Off with their heads. I wonder how they came up with that kind of line. So that's what you have going on. The natives are restless because they have a futureless future, particularly young people. I'm from the Vietnam War era. You know why there were all those protests in the street? I can tell you firsthand. Because you were getting drafted. I used to wake up every day, they're going to get me, they're going to get me. So you don't have the protests going on now because the people that are joining the service, they're mostly people, from lower income strata, and they're looking for some kind of meaningful employment, and that's the only thing they could get. Yeah, you have the ones that like that kind of stuff, but not a lot. So you're seeing now the awakening, as you mentioned. It's being driven by a decline in economic, social, and on top of that, repressive standards, like they do with all declining societies. So that's why it's happening.
Very well put, Gerald. Thank you so much for that. And you hit the nail on the head when you said about, you know, people's hope. I think people need hope, and in hypnotism, if you take away someone's future, they become very depressed and melancholy. So when people haven't got much to look forward to, like kids coming out of school, it's ridiculous, you know. And I believe that people are realizing now that, well, they know the system now, don't they? You know, I mean, people have woken up from the chloroform and they know what's happening. And you know, I just wrote a couple of things down here earlier, like the epoch of worshipping presidents, politicians and popes is over. You know, I saw what you were saying with Alex, on Alex Jones. Great talk. I really enjoyed you speaking with Alex about Obama's speech. I mean, I don't have to go on about it too much here if you don't want to, but it was unbelievable. I could barely watch it. People leaping out of their seats, as you said, like performance seals. And I think now they've become like, I want to get your take on this, Gerald, because it's very important for me. When we worship popes and politicians, what we're doing is we're handing our power over to them, and they're sucking our power up, whereas we should be keeping our own power. And I think that they're like power thieves, these individuals, and we just keep waving our flags, and they'll become like our mums and dads. And I believe we've got to press ourselves off their teat. It's almost like they've possessing us. It's almost like some evil possessions, sort of like you know, like physically they possess us, mentally they possess us, spiritually they possess us, and we keep handing it over. And that epoch, if you like, is surely over, isn't it, Gerald? Now.
Well, it's over to a great extent, but you know, I remember what happened with George Bush. And, you know, people forget this, that, you know, the dot-com bubble burst in March of 2000. The nation was in a recession. People couldn't stand Bush. And it was a joke. People were already, you know, within several months, they were sorry that they voted for him. And then 9/11 happened. You got a guy over there, you wonder if he could tie his shoes. And now all of a sudden he's the president, the commander-in-chief, playing the role, and poorly, and people bought into it. You know, yeah. So it could happen again. What I'm saying, though, is that what's happened over the last few years, the Congress and the president, and it's worldwide, they've become so transparently, so transparently moronic, incapable, and inept that now people are saying, oh, the heck with these guys. And as I mentioned yesterday on Alex Jones, was that I've been watching this stuff for years. I never witnessed such a flat speech. It was dead. There was no vibe in the room. It was empty. He only pulled it out at the end, and this is very important because it ties in all together. When they pull out that soldier that did 10 tours of duty in Afghanistan, that's unheard of, by the way. Even in World War II, I think it was 2 tours. Vietnam was 1. So this guy, you know, he gets blown up, and they're cheering and cheering and cheering. And the loudest applause lines that Obama got was when he talked war talk.
Exactly.
They could do it at any time. When all else fails, Jason, they take you to war.
Exactly.
So yes, the people are looking at them now as clowns. You couldn't get a bigger clown, a more inept, stupid moron than George W. Bush. And look what he pulled off. You look at those videos of him lying us into war. How could anybody believe this guy? It was like Alfred E. Newman lives. And he got away with it. And you got the same thing now, man. You know, politics is show business for ugly people. That's all this is. Obama does the act. And he did it better than Bush for a while. All you need is a terror attack, false flag or real, or something else of that nature. The people will come out, man. They'll wave those made in China American flags and tie yellow ribbons around everything. That's why it's important to make the positive change now, before they take us in a more destructive direction. And if you go back to my top trends for 2013, the top one was war. We're looking at situations now, everybody, including the Financial Times, is repeating what I was writing a year ago. That the situation now feels, looks, and smells a lot like it was on the eve of World War I. Inept politicians, moronic military men, and a populace that just folds over. Boom, they took you to the Great War, the war to end all wars. As you look back on it, one of the most unnecessary wars of all time, other than, of course, the wars that followed.
Well said, Gerald. Really well said. And you're right with the trends. Absolutely. That's why I always tell people to go and subscribe to the Trends, because it is a great book. And your daily, I love your daily shows as well, which are fantastic when you look at the papers. So I mean, really, we are. I wrote one of my things in my book is I wrote, history holds our page open, pen in hand, and asks us now, what's it to be, really? And you're right. I think you said there, sort of, we've got an obligation, not only to ourselves, Gerald, but to the future of mankind, really. I mean, it sounds a bit alarmist, but I mean, people on this planet now, we are really the midwives of the future, aren't we? We're artists and magicians with amnesia almost. I talk about that, being an artist myself. People have forgotten their power because they keep handing it over again and again and again. And I suppose if we look at Ukraine, for instance, now, I know there's a big subject there. You've got George Soros apparently going in there, George Soros and all the boys, the EU. This looks nice, so stir the soup up over there and let's see what we get, and let's get our plates out and have a fine feast on what's left. You know, so people are sort of waking up from the chloroform, Gerald. With Ukraine, people are not happy with what they've got. What worries me, Gerald, can you say a few words on this? What worries me is that people are so scared that if things change and there's sort of some kind of big shift, that they've got a little bit now, and it might be worse if they give up what they've got. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I think they might be worried that, well, if we've got a little bit of food, a few crumbs and a little bit of money, but, you know, what happens if we got nothing? You know, what do you think's going to happen there? How do you think people are feeling inside? They're a bit uncertain, aren't they? A bit worried, surely.
Well, Ukraine, as you mentioned, you know, the West is the one that is pushing that instability. And it's hilarious if it wasn't so sad. And what are they going to do? Oh, yeah, join the European Union, let the multinationals take you over, and you could be like Greece or Spain or Portugal or Ireland or Italy. You could have massive unemployment, all-time high youth unemployment, and go deep in debt. Join the EU. I got a deal for you. So as you said, all this is a deal being put together by the West to destabilize Ukraine. And then you go around the world. Look what's going on over there in Thailand. People haven't left the streets now for months, trying to bring down the government. And who's the government run by? This guy over in England who has his sister fronting for him, and he's a billionaire. You don't become billionaires unless you're on the inside or unless you're doing dirty deals, 9 times out of 10. So then you go over to Japan, and now it's heating up between, continually, Japan and China. And America with its pivot Asia. And our responsibility. What responsibility? How about the founding fathers? Stay home. No foreign entanglements. And again, Cambodia, Bangladesh, you go to Yemen, you go to Bahrain. Go to Syria, go to Libya. Hey, how about Egypt, huh? Hey, isn't that great? Military coup. Oop, don't call it a military coup. We got to give them our money. If they have a military coup, we can't give them defense so they could buy stuff from the military-industrial complex at the tune of $1.3 billion. And then you go over to the Middle East, and of course it's ready to explode between Israel, Lebanon, and Palestinians, you know, at any time. And then you go over to Africa, and you have Mali that's been destabilized as a result of the bringing down of the Gaddafi government in 2011, 2012, that time-limited, scope-limited kinetic action, the humanitarian mission launched by the Nobel Peace Prize winner Obama, that's now destabilized North Africa. And then you look at Central Africa, North and South Sudan, Somalia, Congo. Look what's going on in the equity markets. All the emerging markets are submerging. Interest rates are raising interest rates because all that hot money that went in from the stimulus that's now slowing down because of the tapering is flooding out. Look what's going on in Argentina. How many people are taking to the streets? In Brazil. The hundreds of thousands. The world is on the verge of the first great war of the 21st century. And unless something is done, unless the human spirit rises to a much higher level, this is not going to be a happy ending. And we have paid for it with our lives and our money, and we're going to get nothing in return other than more death, more destruction, and more money being drained out of us. Again, you just take a trip around the world. I forgot about what's going on in Europe, the pitchfork movements in Italy, the indignados in Spain, and now they're passing laws in Spain where you can't protest, kind of like the United States. You know, so again, it's all over the world.
Well said, Gerald. Thank you very much for that. Brilliant. And there's definitely a revolution of consciousness. And I mean, people put their back to the banks. People put their money in the banks through fear that it'll get stolen or they'll lose it. And ironically, that's exactly what the banks are doing. I mean, as you know, I was with Patrick Ennison in Cyprus, watching them standing outside the banks for their little crumbs and morsels when they shut the doors. I see that coming here. Do you see is that a possibility? Should people get their money out of the bank? But if they do, it'll collapse things. It's almost like a bit worrying, because if we do take our power back and get our money out of the banks and things like that, it's going to collapse quicker. It's like almost like checkmate, isn't it, Gerald? It's a very strange sort of scenario that's playing out now, you know?
Yes and no, because the people's money doesn't amount to that much. It's the corporate dough that really matters. Yeah. And what they do is they screw the little people, so they make it hard for the smaller person. But you saw it happen with the HSBC over in the UK, where they're limiting withdrawals and making it very hard to get your money out. Same thing happened during the summer over here in the US as well with JP Morgan Chase, where new customers were told they could take out only so much withdrawals at one time. And as you mentioned, Cyprus was the canary in the mine cage. Yeah. That shows you in the mine shaft. That shows you what could happen when the banks close. You don't get anything. And when you do get something back, it's not going to be all of it. So I'm not going to advise people what to do. My motto, think for yourself. And I don't give financial investment advice. But I can tell you that you can see the handwriting on the wall. This tapering is very big. Very big. Again, the only reason why the stock markets, the equity markets, and the emerging markets went up is because of the tens of trillions of dollars that they've pumped into the system. You go back just to Fed alone, their balance sheet was like they were about in debt maybe $830 billion in 2008. Now it's over $4 trillion. How are they going to make this up? They're not. You're looking at the unraveling. Here, look what's going on in India. All that money's flowing out. The rupee is crashing. So what do they do to stop it? They raise interest rates. Look what's going on in Turkey. There's a revolution going on there. I forgot that one. So what's happening? The lira is crashing to all-time lows, the Turkish lira. What are they doing? They're raising interest rates. You go to South Africa, same thing. You go around the world to all the emerging markets, the money's flowing out, they're trying to save the currencies, and they're raising interest rates. So add it up. And you don't have to even do fundamental math to figure this one out. The higher the interest rates go in a declining economy, the deeper the economy sinks, because people can't borrow money for businesses or to grow or for anything else. So they're creating a situation that's going to make a bad situation much worse.
Well said, Gerald. Thank you very much for that. And it's interesting. I know we've run out of time already. It's awful. It's funny because the more the suppression and the austerity is pushed on people, ironically, it's like being strangled in a pillow over humanity's face, almost a suffocation. And the harder they push the pillow against humanity's face, it's funny that the quicker they're waking up. It's quite almost like a strange irony. Just one question before you go, Gerald, because I know what you've got to go. We're on the 20-minute mark. I'm dead sorry. Quick question. Will they collapse the system purposely? I hate to even think about it. Will they kick the financial chessboard over like children, chucking their toys out of the cot, start a big war? What's your predictions?
No, they won't. They won't do it purposely. You know, these are sociopaths and psychopaths. You know, they're shrewd in what they know how to do, and they're very shrewd in making money and making war. But they don't want it to collapse. They want it to grow bigger so they can steal more. It's out of their control. With this money pumping scheme by the Fed stimulus, this is unprecedented in world history. They don't know how to get out of it.
Brilliant.
They're just trying to save the day by not pumping in more dough because they know the problems. They can't take on more debt. And by the way, the same thing's going on over there in China. You're seeing interest rates going up. The shadow banking, which we call loan sharks, where I grew up, they're now controlling, they're saying they're responsible between 30 and 40% of the GDP. So interest rates are going up in China. Manufacturing index is going down. Exports are slowing up. Imports are slowing up. So all the banks have been doing the same thing. So again, when all else fails, they take you to war, like what's going on in Japan. This madman Abe, this warmonger. And what is he doing? He's building up the Japanese fleet. By the way, anybody that goes to war with China got to be out of their minds. You know, they're not going to win. As a matter of fact, if China and Japan go to war, it's going to be hell on earth.
Yeah.
You know, it would be the worst thing that could possibly happen, other than if they go to war with Iran, but that doesn't look like it's happening now because they're doing a deal with Iran because of business. It's all it comes down to. The oil companies are already moving in. They're making deals, I should say. And it's a very untapped, very rich resource, the whole country, and businesses looking for new markets to go into. So they'll probably have a deal. But going back to war, again, when you're looking at the world economy's collapse, you saw what happened in the Ukraine. In Ukraine, they could not control the people. The prime minister resigned. They repealed the law that they put in place to stop protests, and now it's announced the president is on a sick leave. and Putin has now said, we're holding back on the money we were going to give you and those lower oil prices. The deal's off.
Amazing. Until
you have stabilization. Now, you're seeing it happening in front of your eyes. When enough people go out there, they could come out with all the troops that they want. Guess what? It ain't going to work. And that's what's going on in Ukraine. So, but I don't see it happening in the United States because the police, again, look what happened with that guy, that congressman that threatened to throw this little guy over a balcony and break him in half. You saw that one, that guy, Michael Grimm?
Yeah.
Perfect name. Former FBI guy, by the way, with a whole history of kind of getting on the edge and going over it. Great for a congressman. And here's the deal. If you or I or anyone listening were to make those same exact threats to a congressman or a senator or any federal official, you would be breaking the law, and those same FBI guys would be bashing down your door, throwing you down on the ground face first, locking you up, and dragging you out of your house.
Exactly.
And throwing you in jail, and you would be found guilty. But in fascist USA, they get a free ride.
Exactly. Exactly. Well said, Gerald. It is a great time of change. I mean, people are waking up, and whoever they vote in, you can see in Ukraine, oh, let's get them out, put these in. The people know now that it's not going to make any difference to their lives of struggle. So you're right, and it's great. And I know I got to let you go, Gerald. It's wonderful to have you on here, and I hope you'll come on with me again. We really appreciate what you're doing there at TrendsJournal. I watch you every day. Please, everybody, go and get the TrendsJournal.com. Gerald Celente, thank you so very much for joining me today and giving us your pearls of wisdom. You're a great visionary, and we're all lucky to have you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, very kind of you, and the best of luck.
Thanks.
Thank you for your good work.
Thank you, Gerald.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Well, there's Gerald Celente, and he's helped us understand a lot of the things that we're trying to grapple with the world. Gerald's, as I said, a great visionary. Look at his stuff. It's TrendsJournal.com. Go there and have a look what's going on there, and subscribe to the great magazine there. So that's me. We're done. I'm Jason Leosadis. Thanks for joining me on Outside the Box. We've had another great guest, and hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye now.